What's going on, fellow co-creators? Here we are, back in action, and today is a very special day. Before you, we have the beautiful Ender 3 Max. Now, this is pretty much a bigger Ender 3 Pro, as you see right here behind Uncle Jimmy. Now, we've been excited about getting a bigger 3D printer since we pretty much started co-creations. Like, that's been on our minds for a very long time. Because there's only so many things you can do with the build plate that we have been printing with for, the last almost a year now. It's very limited, it honestly is. But with that being said, we love the Ender 3 Pro. We have 3 of them now, so we're definitely cranking them out. We're definitely running them around the clock, and we really love the printers. Really excited to stay in the Creality family, and when I heard that this was coming out, I was really stoked about it. Told him immediately and was like, we need to jump on this and check this out. Because literally, it's only $100 more, and we're going to go over all the different details and upgrades. But it's an awesome, awesome printer. And we already built it, put it together, because literally it took like 15 minutes.
It was a pretty easy setup.
You can see our other videos. Building the Ender 3 Pro, our fastest time is probably about a half hour, all things said and done. We literally cut that in half with a bigger printer and machine. And this thing is loaded with tons of other features, bonus upgrades, and all sorts of cool things too. Like for instance, you'll see our spools over on this side, where the Ender 3 Pro is over here on the top. Now, that is what we found is the best guide path. I know, the best with the Ender 3 Pro is from the top. And you have this huge arc coming down and then having to feed into the extruder at like a really, really steep angle. Like, it's not great. With this, not only can you just like pop off the filament arm right here and literally put it on anywhere on the machine you want to, but it literally just works just like that. You literally slide it on. It also has some other nice maneuverability as well. And that guide path is now almost directly into the extruder, which is a huge upgrade in itself. That's gonna help with tangles, that's gonna help with jam ups. I mean, that's a huge, huge bonus right there. Also, we got this cool little sensor that I know you're a huge fan about. Yeah. Tell them about the cool AutoStop sensor that comes with this thing.
Okay, so when your spool runs out of filament, this upgrade has a nice little sensor that senses when the filament runs out. And it will pause your print and wait for you to add your new spool in. Not only that, but once you put your new spool on, it'll heat up the end for you and it'll spill out a little bit of filament just to make sure that you don't have any gapping or any lack in your filament there. So it has an awesome feature that's added to it.
And it's smooth. I mean, the transition, we actually tried it with a full-size Mandalorian helmet because that was one of our biggest things we wanted to do. And you guys will actually have to check out our next video that I'm going to drop a link in where we take that full-size Mandalorian helmet to the gun range and test out some cool things. But this is the size helmet we could get with the Ender 3 Pro. And as you see, it's not quite going to cut it for anybody with a full-size head.
Yeah.
With this, not only were we able to get a full-size Mandalorian helmet that would fully fit, you guys will be able to see it in the other video and whatnot, it printed up amazingly, and not only do we have to stop it and then continue another print, but the seamless transition was awesome. I mean, it was so smooth and the guide path was just great. A couple cool other features that come along with this thing is the hot end. Now you see here, it's kind of got this cool trapezoid looking kind of design. It also has an additional fan built into it. So the Ender 3 Pro only came with 2 fans, and you definitely want to make sure you have good cooling systems. That way when your extruder is putting, or your hot end is putting out that nice hot bead of plastic filament, it cools as soon as it hits the bed, so your layers bond really, really nicely. So the fact that they have another fan already built in with this new design is really, really cool. I really like that as well. Yep. Then the framework is pretty much just the Ender 3 Pro, but bigger. And I love that. I mean, literally, it's super simplistic. I love the design. Exactly, almost identical to the Ender 3 Pro, just a lot bigger. The build plate itself too is a glass bed now. Now this is our first time using a glass bed, and I gotta say, I really like this one, and there's a couple reasons why I like this one, and I think it works better than traditional glass beds that we've seen with other people using, Pyrex or going to a Home Depot and getting a glass build plate and then putting it on with gator clips. The Ender 3 Creality build plate that's this glass bed has this like frosted kind of like filament, or frosted, I don't know what would you call it, like a coating.
Just a texture, yeah.
It's a texture coating that when it's hot, the filament bonds really well with it, and when it's cool, it allows air to like travel underneath it. So
it just pops right off.
You just like, boink. I mean, literally, it's not hard at all to get the prints off. So I will say, I'm a huge fan of this glass build plate, quite honestly.
It's been really easy.
This one's been super, super smooth, really nice to use. And as far as the size dimensions that we've gained, opposed to the M3 Pro, on the X and the Y axis, we got another probably about 3 inches or so. And then on the Z axis, we actually got about another 4.5 inches. So we can go a lot taller with this thing, as you guys can see. So, I mean, the build size alone, this is, the small helmet. And I actually do have, this was our first attempt. Tell them about the power outage nonstop feature, as I'm showing on this actually. Because our first attempt for the full-size helmet, as you guys see, didn't fit, but it can fully fit around the smaller helmet. So, I mean, literally, this is, the kind of the framework of a full-size one. But tell them why it failed and why we weren't able to pick up where it left off like we would have been able to with the M3 Pro.
Because one negative feature about this is that it does not have the power outage feature. When the power goes out, your print's done.
It's over.
It's over.
Game over, man. It's game over.
And I don't know why that wasn't programmed into this one, just like the Ender 3, but for some reason they left that out. So it's something to note, because that's a bummer when you're printing up a 30-hour print and it stops halfway through.
Yep, and the nice thing about the power outage feature is literally it's more or less it pauses the print for you, and it kind of allows you to pick up where you left off.
Much like the filament break.
Exactly. So it is nice they added the filament break, kind of took away the other, stop feature too. So, kind of give and take there a little bit for sure, which is kind of funny. Another thing that is a huge upgrade is the actual extruder itself. So people who get into 3D printing, one of the first things you're going to want to upgrade is the extruder, because most manufacturing,
they're made of cheap
they're
plastic.
made of cheap plastic. They're just, the ones that are included aren't really going to cut it, and they're not really made to last, especially for long prints. Like if you're doing stuff that's 24, 36, 48 hours, longer. So most people upgrade to aluminum, titanium, steel, something like that. The nice thing is they already upgraded the whole fittings. Everything is now aluminum. All the fittings are nice.
The adjustment's a lot better too for tension.
The gears are great. The spring is better too. Literally, on our other ones, I remember we had to clip a couple of the different springs to actually get the tension right because they're too tight, and it'll squeeze the filament too much and break it actually here at the extruder. So the spring that came included with it was dialed in, really smooth, really simple. And then past that, I mean, am I really missing anything? It's kind of just a bigger Ender 3 Pro. Same battery, same kind of computer built in here.
Just a lot more capability.
Exactly, there's a lot more features and you can really do a lot more. Like I said, I'm going to put a link in the description below for our next video that you can actually see where we printed up a full-size Mandalorian helmet. And we took it to the gun range with some other Mandalorian armor and tested it with some cool weaponry to see what this PLA stuff can really stand up against. So definitely be sure to check that out. And other than that, be sure to pick yourselves up an Ender 3 Max. I mean, it is a great printer for people who've been 3D printing and or just getting started.
Yeah,
like
beginners.
For beginners, just the setup alone was huge. So I'm going to drop a link in the description below as well. Grab yourself a 3D Ender Max because they're really great. I mean, they're honestly a really awesome printer. I'm truly pleased with it. So other than that, leave a like, leave a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe because we're going to be dropping more great videos. And other than that, I hope you all have a blessed day. Keep creating.